Dia Gwitch, everybody, Kajima Tashiv, and welcome back to episode number 125 of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. Sorry for the lateness of this episode, everybody. It is Friday the 21st November. This episode should have been out 12 hours ago, but it's coming out now. I'm in Zurich right now, beautiful sunny Zurich, as you can see. And this episode is going to be shot in one continuous take and uploaded immediately. So if there is ever time that I'm going to get cancelled for saying something, today is finally the day. Now, today's episode is came at the request of many of you guys, and I am delighted to be able to finally release this episode. It's the Big V. Not that one, okay? Fucking grow up. Not that one, not that Big V. And not the other Big V either, not the other one you're thinking of. V for Vibrato. Or Vibrato, as we call it in Belfast. I remember when I was in Royal Welsh College of Music, the way I said the full name, they're like such a wanker, the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, I believe you'll find, where Sir Anthony Hopkins attended. When I was in Royal Welsh, I was in second year, and there was a wee lad came in called Owen in the year below me to play. He was on oboe, and he did his first performance class. He played a piece by Hamilton Hardy, who's obviously from Belfast as well, from Lisburn even. And I put my hand up to comment on it, and I was like, mate, by the way, I just want to say your vibrato is lovely. And everyone was like, there's two people now saying vibrato. Because we say vibrato in Belfast, not vibrato. But anyway, vibrato, we all know what it is. We all know what the crack is, what it is. And I went down this rabbit hole again, lads. I was fully down it. Oh, I was balls deep in a rabbit hole today. So I started in the usual place that you do. No, not what you're thinking. Not ChatGPT. ChatGPT is so fucking shit. It is doing my head in at the minute. Also, you guys, by the way, I've been seeing you. You're all talk, AI's bad for the environment, we're creative artists, we'll never use it. And then every fucking one of you has shared that video of that cat playing the flute out the fucking porch. I've seen you. Do not worry. I have a note on my phone of everyone who shared that video. And trust me, when I become dictator, you are the first ones to be facing the fucking firing squad. ChatGPT is fucking shite. Shite. Most of the time. Sometimes it is handy. I mean, sometimes you get the use out of it. Like last week, I don't know if anyone saw, but Ireland went through to the playoffs for the World Cup next year. And we beat Hungary in the very last minute after a Troy Pirate hat-trick. And then I got a screenshot within minutes of someone asking ChatGPT if you could smoke in the stadiums in Mexico. That's where ChatGPT is fucking brilliant. Everything else, it can fuck right off. No, where did I start? I went to Wikipedia. That's where you should be starting. Which is so odd to me that is now considered the legitimate source of information. Back in my day, you would have got in trouble for citing Wikipedia in an article. Now it's great. So on Wikipedia, we go down to vibrato. And it says, vibrato is a regular, pulsating change of pitch in music. Now that term itself, it's used in French, vibrato or vibrato. It's used in French, it's used in German, it's used in English. I'm pretty sure they'd say the same in Italian and probably Spanish as well. It's only been around since the 19th century, the 1800s. It's not that long. But the phenomenon itself of vibrato, of this pulsating change in music, it's definitely existed since at least 1545. That's where it's been documented. So at least 1545. And to be honest, it's pretty safe to assume that it's been there pretty much as long as music has been there. It's been pretty much a continuous solid part of musical history. But obviously the use of it and the style of it, especially in classical music, has changed a lot over time, considering how fashion's changed in music as well. Like all things, this is totally expected. It's totally normal. Do not worry, by the way. On this episode, I will be going after the historical performance wankers who insist their style is right. Such pricks. Because anyone who tells you that there is a correct way to play vibrato, they're a fucking virgin. All right? We'll get more on that later. But I stumbled, by the way, oh man, you would not believe how fucking fierce people get on the internet about vibrato, especially historical performance wankers. And I stumbled upon a fierce back and forth of published articles between an English singer called Tim Braithwaite and the secretary for the National Early Music Association in the UK, a guy called Richard Bethel. There are massive articles in this, but basically Bethel is saying, essentially, he doesn't like how modern singers use so much vibrato. That's it. He's like, I don't like it. And he basically just shits on modern singers all the time. And it's a piss poor weak argument, but Braithwaite goes after him in proper academic English style. It's so fucking bitchy. Only the English could do this. In Ireland, you just smack him. But in England, like, I'm going to give you some quotes from this I picked up from the articles. This one here. It is frustrating that Mr. Bethel insists on ignoring passages from sources that he himself constantly quotes, however selectively. He is being deliberately deceptive and he knows it. Here it is. This is my favourite one. This is the essence of the discussion. Mr. Bethel dislikes most, if not all, sounds produced by modern operatic singers. The mere existence of such a category is in itself a puzzlingly broad statement given the diversity among us singers. This personal aversion is as legitimate as any taste or preference. The problems emerge from his efforts to substantiate his tastes as universal values of the past centuries, inevitably by manipulating historical sources, ignoring contrary evidence, and selectively quoting authors from the past and the present, often in contradictory ways. That's fucking great. And funny as well. I adhere wholeheartedly to Tim's suggestion about a more cautious analysis in future discussions. Otherwise, Mr. Bethel's subsequent responses will only be useful for the study of logical fallacies, confirmation bias, and belief perseverance. Meow. Meow, you bitch, you. Honestly, if that was me, I'd just called him a wanker and smacked him. Said, here, fair dig in the car park afterwards. Done. But here, you do you, lads. The English of it. Now, vibrato taste. It's changed a lot over a very long period of time. And it's not what you expect. I think people assume that vibrato has just got more popular and more intense, and then the 70s came and we all threw it out the window. That's not true. There was a polymath from France back in the day called Marine Merzen. He did a lot of work on the acoustics of stringed instruments, as well as he did stuff on prime numbers. Any mathematicians will know the Merzen prime numbers. But his biggest work is a book called Harmonie Universelle, which earned him the title of the father of acoustics. He was also a Catholic priest, by the way, and he was a member of the Order of Minims, which the German friary of the Order of Minims had a brewery, no longer attached, but that brewery still exists, and it's called Paulaner, who also brews Spätzle. The fucking drink I drink in every episode of this podcast, but I don't have it today because I'm in Zurich. Spätzle. I would love to see ChatGPT do that. Fuck ChatGPT, man. Lincoln Vibrato with the 1600s to Spätzle's hero. No chance. Stick that up your USB port. Fuck off. I need to calm down. Anyway, where else would you get this, by the way? Where else would you get this quality of podcast? So Merzen, Marine Merzen. Okay, so he called, at this point in the 1600s, he called Lute Vibrato a verre cassé, which is like a broken glass. And he says vibrato lost popularity in his time because of its previous overuse. Now, that's in the 1600s. He's saying that it's already been overused at that point and they've taken a turn aesthetically away from it. That's massive. Now, again, vibrato wasn't the term used back in them days. There was other terms used. There was like Bebung in German, flattement in French. Although the term flattement, people like Jacques Otteter, the flute player, he wrote a lot about using flattement. That was generally using your finger vibrato. So we still do this in Irish music, for example. You'll take a note and then you'll pick a finger where if you move the key up and down as a trill, it'll be like a quarter of a tone. So it's not enough to change the actual pitch of the note, but it gives a vibrato effect. It's actually fucking gorgeous. I love doing it. When I've played enough Irish music, which I've done recently on my bowing flute, when I've played enough of it and I go back to playing classical music, there are times where I will accidentally throw in like finger vibrato on a fucking Mozart piece. It sounds class. Nobody knows, by the way. Nobody fucking realizes, but that's another fish to fry on another Friday. But the most common term back then was tremolo. Now, obviously, we know tremolo these days. Tremolo, nowadays, in classical music at least, means a repeated use of the same note or alternating quickly between two different notes. Okay? But back in them days, tremolo was used as a term for vibrato. One person who used that very often was a guy called Leopold Mozart. You might know the name. That is Daddy Mozart, and I do not mean... what do you call your man who's daddy? Well, here, in 90s, daddy. No, you call your man that's daddy. Pedro Pascal. It's not Pedro Pascal playing Mozart. But this is what he wrote about vibrato, by the way, or tremolo. So, talking about tremolo, he says, it consists in the wavering of a stop tone, which alternately extends a little below or above the perfect intonation, and is produced by a trembling motion of the left hand in the direction from the nut towards the bridge. This motion, however, might be slight, and the deviation from the perfect intonation of the tone should hardly be perceptible to the ear. In old compositions, the tremolo is indicated by points or by the word tremolo. In new compositions, it is generally left to the performer. Avoid its frequent use or in improper places. In places where the tremolo is used by the singer, it may also advantageously be applied to the violin. This tremolo is therefore properly used in passionate passages and in strongly marking all the forzando or audio listeners, you can't see this, but the wee fucking thing like that, tones. Long sustained tones can be animated and strengthened by it. If such a tone swells from piano to forte, a beautiful effect is produced by beginning the tremolo slowly, and in proportion to the increasing power, to give a gradually accelerated vibration. This is basically where he's talking about how vibrato is used as a tool to increase intensity. The frequency of it, and the speed of it, and the depth of it, as those things increase, it gives a change in perception to intensity, essentially. Now, composers actually wrote, this is mad me, by the way, I didn't know this until I looked this up recently. Composers actually wrote in scores when to use vibrato, and they did it in really weird ways. Some people use like a wee fucking, like an actual drawing of a wave above a note to show like how fast they wanted it and which notes they wanted it. Some people just wrote the word tremolo. Mendelssohn did this, by the way, in the original in the original manuscript for his violin concerto. He has vibrato on certain notes, and it's like 3 notes or something. That's fuck all. Just certain notes he goes use vibrato. The rest of the time it's assumed you're not meant to. Some composers still do that nowadays, especially fucking student composers they go to music college with. They love writing and use vibrato here and don't use vibrato here. See, if you're a composer, don't do that. Just fucking don't do that. That's like asking me to turn up sober to a rehearsal. This is not in either of our control. One thing is true, though. Mozart did not like vibrato. That is true. He once said that when he was talking about a singer called Meissner. The actual text is, Meissner hat, wie Sie wissen, die üble Gewohnheit, dass oft mit Fließ mit der Stimme zittert. Ganz Viertel, ja oft gar Akzent in aushaltender Note markiert. Und das habe ich an ihm nie leiden können. Das ist auch wirklich abscheulich. Das ist völlig ganz wieder die Natur zu singen. Which is, man, so fucking dramatic. It basically says that he has like a habit of trembling his voice, sometimes even on like quavers, recorder notes. And I can never stand that about him. It's against nature, which is such bollocks, man. Nowadays, so since the sort of the 1970s, there's been a general trend of what's going on. And we have a general idea of what's going on with vibrato now and what's understood about it. And what's considered, especially historically, accurate. Now, the general gist is, the earlier the music, the less vibrato. That's the running idea here. So, Bach, fuck all. Mozart, wee bit. Schubert, go for it. Mahler, fucking covered. I once had a teacher compare, and I think it's quite a common comparison to make these days, comparing vibrato to ketchup. But you wouldn't put ketchup in everything, mate. I do. I put ketchup in everything. You stand still long enough, I'll put ketchup on fucking you. Alright? So, and I put vibrato in everything. So, fuck you. That is a piss poor argument again. But that's the very key point. And the ketchup metaphor is beautiful for this because it's taste. Believe it or not. A lot of this change about like hating on vibratos came about because of one specific conductor, and this guy called Roger Norrington. Or if you insist, I can say Sir Roger Norrington. And he basically had orchestras play without vibrato. Which was dog shit. And like I remember he was conducting the last night of the proms, the BBC proms. Fuck, it must be like, I'd say it must be like 2012 or something, maybe around that time. And he had announced in the press he was not going to use vibrato with the orchestra for Pomp and Circumstance, which is like the big ender to the proms. And there was news articles about this man. Like, this was in the fucking press for like days. Like, will Roger Norrington not use vibrato in it? Obviously, and just a slow news day. Slow news week. Back then, there was no Trump. Israel weren't fucking everybody up the hole. And there wasn't all these other monsters of the modern world. So the main news headline was Roger Norrington's not going to use fucking vibrato. Man, what a great time. How long for the peacefulness of the mid-2000s. Anyway, Norrington had this thing about making this claim that what he was doing was historically accurate. And this sound of his, without vibrato with orchestras, was dubbed the Stuttgart sound. Now, in his program notes for a recording he did of Mahler 1, he actually talks about this. He says, Brahms, Wagner, Tchaikovsky, Bruckner, Mahler, and Berg never heard an orchestra with vibrato. It simply wasn't a part of their experience. Now, some people may consider this phrase deceptive. That may be considered deception to some of you. In Belfast, we would call that talking out your hole. It's bollocks. It's horse shit. It's fairy tale stuff. Now, Roger Norrington is not stupid. We know this. He's not thick. He knows this is a load of shite. But he's a fundamentalist. Like a huge part of that historical performance crowd especially the more extreme ones. He's a fundamentalist. And they often do go out just to shock, not to educate. I'm going to give you two similar cases, actually. If you think of Herbert von Karajan with his Berlin sound that he had with the Berlin Philharmonic at that time, or Leopold Stokowski with the Philadelphia Orchestra with the Philadelphia sound. These are two similarly renowned and individual and unique sounds that have been attached to orchestras. Very, very well known. Now, these were mainly based on how the conductor treated the orchestra, how he reacted to the orchestra, and the sound he got out of them. And they were noteworthy, these two especially, for their virtuosity and their big, fucking, creamy, rich tones. The sound of the orchestra in general was just so full. It was gorgeous. Fuck's sake, Jimmy Galway was principal flute in Karajan's Berlin Phil. And William Kincaid was the principal flute in Stokowski's Philadelphia. Gorgeous playing. This is gorgeous flute playing. You see this kind of flute playing, that's what you needed in these orchestras. But von Karajan and Stokowski had never claimed for a single moment that what they did was right or correct. Because you didn't need to. The results were there for themselves. They did it. It sounded fucking great. They didn't even say it was right. You just listened to it and said, fucking hell, that's class. The idea of justifying interpretation by historical accuracy or by its historical accuracy is a modern thing. And honestly, it is so fucking lame. Imagine taking all the personal joy and passion and spontaneity right out of interpretation and instead claiming something is just right. It's just right. We never do that in anything else, by the way. We never do that. I don't sit eating a gochujang infused mashed potato in Belfast and some cunt comes up and goes, by the way, that actually isn't correct. Historically, we just had boiled potatoes. Aye, we did. But they were shite. So we threw them out the window and we got the Koreans involved. Why wouldn't you? Or, excuse me, sweetheart, your Carhartt jumper and Doc Marten boots, they do look great, but historically, fucking bollocks in this, recent studies suggest that women actually didn't wear shoes until the 1700s. Yeah, well, go fuck yourself. I know they didn't. Who cares what they did in the 1700s? It's 2025, and I'm trying to get fingered. Fuck off. And I just can't believe some people are so determined to have no fucking joy in their music making, to just suck it all out of it. Suck every bit of the life out of music. Music changes with times. That is why this music has survived for 300 years. The messages it has can be adapted and they are relevant to modern society. And honestly, the argument historically against vibrato is, again, piss poor at best. It is piss poor. It's cherry picking certain examples to suit a narrative. And that's all it is in this space. That's all this shit about vibrato and no vibrato. I'm not even talking the extreme people. I'm talking when you've had teachers who say don't use vibrato and back. It's not correct. All of this, it's the same fucking thing at its base. It's someone doesn't like it personally, and instead of having the bollocks to just admit it's a personal choice or to sit with the discomfort of not liking something that someone else do, they want to find evidence to prove why their subjective opinion is correct. It gives off small man energy, man. Imagine how boring it would be in the world if we all just had the same taste in everything. It'd be shite. Personally, I love my vibrato how I love my women. Thick. Thick with two C's, man. Juicy, thick. You want to grab onto it. And I don't want to make sweeping statements of demographics in general. I absolutely do. But generally what I find is the people who hate on vibrato more also love 5 minutes of missionary, decaf coffee, and going to bed before 9 o'clock. These are the people we're talking about. I found this amazing article, fucking exceptional article called Orchestral Vibrato, Historical Context, and the Evidence of the Printed Page. And I was on Classics today. I actually can't find the author. I'm very sorry. So if someone knows who it is, please tell me. But they have some amazing quotes in this 117-page PDF that you can get for free. Just go and read it. It is fucking class. It is honestly one of the best things I've read in a long time. And I got some of my favorite quotes out of it. Here's one. I think this is actually the first fucking sentence. There is a fraud being foisted on the music-loving public today by certain members of the historically informed performance practice lunatic fringe, who he, for the entire duration of the article, calls HIPPLF. To refer specifically to the lunatic fringe. That is fucking petty. I love it. Another one. What sometimes passes for scholarship on the vibrato issue is, to put it mildly, pitiful. In the process, they, the HIPPLF, have created their fair share of speculative, anti-musical nonsense. You're anti-musical? You're anti-musical and your uncle opera? The non-vibrato fits all theory constitutes nothing less than an affront to history, to a centuries-old performance tradition, and to the reality of what fine musicians have always known and done. Fucking here, man. Here. Man, in reality, there's plenty of room for widely varying tastes and standards. This is true authenticity. Bang. Drop the fucking mic there, man. That is it. That is beautifully put. That is true authenticity. Is to make space for different tastes and different standards. That is the human experience. Sir Mix-a-Lot wrote a song in the 1990s about his love of big fat asses. And he was branded a fool. People laughed him out of the room and said, Sir Mix-a-Lot, sir, you're a fool. We don't want fat asses. We want flat, small asses. People laughed at him. A genius misunderstood in his own times. But his varying tastes and standards changed history. And now, there's nothing more accepted in society than a fat, juicy hole. He, listen, the author of this article, and I've just realized I've said the word he. And if it's a woman, I'm going to be very embarrassed about this. I probably should have said they, but it's too late and we're on live. He has said that these people, the non-vibrato people, are emotionally neutered. The validation I got from hearing him call these people that. I know these people. They are emotionally neutered. Nobody's ever fun, by the way. The people who do this, they're never fun. They're never good crack. The people like, never use vibrato. Actually, I read a treatise from 1742, and you mentioned that there was no vibrato in the violin playing of the period, so you shouldn't use it either in your performance next week. Go fuck yourself. Go get laid, man. Go smoke something. Go drink something you shouldn't drink, and go have a bit of crack. Jesus Christ, imagine being that unfun. Right, before I go on and go do the Patreon read, because I need money. So, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, you can skip ahead 2 minutes or something. I usually put it in the chapters. If you're a new listener to Inline G, would you just bear with me for a minute or two and lend me your ears? The Inline G podcast is free, and it always will be free. That is a guarantee. But if you wish to donate to the podcast, you can now do so through the Patreon. On the screen now is the address, and for the audio listeners, it is patreon.com/the Inline G Flute podcast. It costs €5 a month. I don't know what that is in your currency, but it's £5 a month. Lads, that is nothing. I do everything around here on my own. This is the definition of a small independent podcast. Audio production, video production, graphic design, guest interviews, script writing, everything. There are a significant amount of costs attached to that, by the way. This equipment doesn't come for free. You don't get these in fucking cereal boxes. The programs I've used for online interviews, etc., the time I take off work to go and travel, it's all a passion project. I adore it. This has been the greatest creative process in my life, and it's changed my life. So I love this podcast with all my heart. Now, sponsors will not touch this podcast. They did offer, but they always want to have creative control over what I say. Can't talk about mental health, can't swear, can't tell people that Israel's committing a genocide, blah, blah, blah. So I told sponsors to go fuck themselves. We are now the biggest flute podcast. I say we are the biggest flute podcast in the world, and we are 100% listener funded. How fucking class is that? That is so rock and roll, and that's because of you guys. So if you have €5 to spare a month, remember, you get an episode of this podcast every Friday. I'm in Zurich on my fucking hollybobs here, visiting my best friend Jad. I'm meant to be out there. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I should be out there drinking wine already, and I'm not. I'm in her fucking spare room recording a podcast for you cunts on Vibrato. This is not what I should be doing with my time, but I have not missed a Friday yet, and I never will. You get an episode every fucking Friday. A well-written, researched episode. And that's a lot of work. That is 4 hours minimum of entertainment a month you're getting here. That's not even the cost of Netflix. Alright? If you can afford €5 a month to actually give some money to a genuine, independent podcaster who's trying to make money and give it directly to an artist who's creating the kind of art you want, please consider doing it. Please. Even sign up for 1 month and unsubscribe immediately and you just give me like a one-off €5 fee. Please consider doing it. Because your money is better off going in the pockets of proper creators than it is fucking Netflix or Amazon Prime, where there's fuck all on it anyway. You just end up scrolling through it for 20 minutes and then going, fuck it, I'll stick on Inline G again. I know you do. So if you can afford it, please do it. If you can't afford it, I understand times are really hard at the minute, especially for artists. It's grand. I really believe the podcast should be free for everybody. There's no bonus episodes because people use this for academic research now. You've lost your fucking mind if you do that. But it needs to be free. So if you can't afford it, someone who can afford it is paying for you to listen for free. It's a system based on kindness and soundness. Thank you very much, everybody. Mwah. Now, the next part of this podcast, I was originally going to talk about the Doppler effect. Scientific basis for vibrato as well. And those kind of things. Other such things in this topic. But this hatred of anti-vibrato was giving me energy. I was on the train writing this episode last night. 5 hours. I was like a fucking schoolgirl being asked to take off her top. I was like, man, I fucking hate anti-vibrato people. I do. They're all pricks. So this episode has become a love letter to vibrato and to expression in general. Because honestly, big vibrato is hot. There is a term, by the way, for when you feel nostalgia for a period that you didn't experience, for a life you never experienced. It's called anemoia. And usually it's attached to like La Belle Époque in Paris, so like the 1920s in Paris. People want to go and, fucking drink Kir Royales with Ernest Hemingway in the 1920s, who had never been there. I see it nowadays with Gen Z, especially attached to the 80s and the 90s, where they weren't alive. But there's no surprise why they're getting attached to these eras. Because for so long, modern life has become so fucking minimalist and so flat and hyper-polished and clean girl energy. And the 80s and 90s were the absolute antithesis to all this. It was fucking neon colours and big hair and bold branding and loud fashion. Even in the 90s, everything was baggy. And you had grunge coming up and you had fucking Britpop and Cool Britannia and Oasis and NWA coming out of America. It was just a time to be loud and expressive and find your people and just fucking scream about it. People had money. People were doing things. It was loud. It was unapologetic. And it was cool. It was fucking cool. And when we look at classical music in that time, vibrato was in. Vibrato was fucking pumping, man, because we all had money. We all had fun. We all had time. We wanted to enjoy ourselves a little bit instead of starving ourselves like we do nowadays. Hating on vibrato gives clean girl aesthetics. It's awful. The part of the zeitgeist of the 80s and 90s was over the top, and that was the overall flavor of that era. So if you want to hear that kind of like ballsy, romantic vibrato, that heavy style, that nobody apologized for, you want to go in flute playing. You want to go pre-Emmanuel Bayou. I love Emmanuel Bayou. I've talked about him so much in this podcast. He's an incredible musician. I appreciate Emmanuel Bayou as a flute player and as a musician more than I actually like him, if that makes sense. Because Bayou is part of this generation that saw the rise of intellectualism and academia and all those kind of things in flute playing and classical music in general. But before that, the era before that, and maybe that is an antithesis or a response to what came before, because it was just pure emotion. It was pure fucking emotion. And the justification for a musical choice being, I want to do that because I feel this way, was incredibly respected and held massive currency. It doesn't anymore. Now, I don't want to keep on harping on about the big man, but if you want to hear flute playing that just is pure emotion, you need to go to Jimmy Galway. He was so fucking good. And that's someone who, when you listen to Jimmy play, especially in the 90s and the 80s, that's someone who's having a fucking great time playing. He is enjoying himself. He's having a good time. If you haven't listened to that style of playing, by the way, a lot of people don't think have appreciated how good Galway was. They sort of pigeonhole him and go, oh yeah, the guy that did The Lion King and he plays with a lot of vibrato. That's it. Go and listen to Pete Galway. Go listen to like his Mercadante recordings. Or for me, especially the big one is the César Franck and Prokofiev sonatas recorded by Martha Argerich. Fucking drop your stereotypes about vibrato and your ideas about the sound being too heavy. Just accept it. Just get on with it. Don't bitch about the same thing for 45 minutes. Accept that he has a massive, big, rich sound with a big vibrato on it. Get over that. Listen to the size of the phrases, how long they go, how he pulls you into the story, how when you think it gets as intense as it possibly can, he turns it up another notch. The sound of the instrument, especially as a flute player, you can appreciate the sound and pure volume he gets out of it and the richness of the sound. It's incomparable. And for something like César Franck, who's French, by the way, you need to do this. And Martha Argerich battles against him in this recording. It is musicianship of the highest order. Pau could not do that. I've heard Pau play intense, and it's always a measured intensity that always has context playing a part in it. It's almost like edging. Galway doesn't do that. Galway will push you and push you and push you and push you. I shouldn't have said edging on this podcast. But while you're listening to Jimmy, go listen to William Bennett as well. Go listen to Nico Legge. Go listen to Jean-Pierre Rampal. Big JP, man. That is buckfast flute playing. And here's my big prediction, by the way, guys. I'm going to leave you soon. My big prediction. Vibrato will be back. And it's going to come back big. It's going to come back in that wave. And you people who hate on it, you're going to be so fucking embarrassed. And I'm going to be riding it. Because the general zeitgeist of our side, that's twice I've used that word in this podcast. I'm so proud of myself for knowing what it means. The general zeitgeist at the minute of society is swinging back, especially with young people. The clean girl aesthetic is done. We're seeing that. We had Brat Summer last year, and chaos is cool again. People are done with the fucking wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, go for a run, have a blended smoothie, do a bit of meditation, blah, blah, blah. We're all going, fuck that, man. Fuck that. Because you could do all that and get hit by a truck tomorrow. And the way the world is at the minute, there's a good chance we'll all get blown up by Israel at some point. Why would you waste your time eating almonds? Get up in the morning, smoke a Marlboro Gold, see off a Monster Energy, and go fucking smash the day. You're allowed to do these things. We are romanticizing again doing things that we shouldn't do sometimes because it's fun. Going out drinking, staying out late, partying, seeing your friends, experiencing things you haven't done before, throwing yourself out of your comfort zone. These are important. These are what make you live. And if we're going to translate that to classical music, young players are going to be coming into universities now and music colleges and be saying, fuck that. I don't want to restrain my playing. I don't want to go put a fucking mute on my playing by saying you can't do something. Because immediately with this generation, which I respect so much, you tell them they can't do something, they say, well, go fuck yourself, I'm going to do it more now. And when you say you can't use heavy vibrato and Bach, why not? Because some fucking virgin on the internet told you not to? No. Fuck them. Stick it on. Because there is a market for it. We are swinging back to this. Do what makes you good. You are an artist. Do not listen to other people. Go and enjoy it. That's how things change. That's what's going to change this generation is young players are going to make their own decisions and they're going to go against academia and intellectualism, especially at a hierarchical level. They're going to say, fuck it, we're going to do our own thing. And they're all going to do that, and that's where music taste will change. And vibrato is coming back good. It will go back to expressing anarchy and chaos, and I can't fucking wait. I really think the last sort of 15, 20 years, especially with this meteoric rise of historical performance, has reached its tipping point. We're at the point now we're going, no, it's too far now. You went way too far, and it's going to pass. And look, if that wee French priest who invented orange lemonade in 1645 had the same experience, then we're on the right side of history. So, lads, I'm going to get some fondue and drink some Beaujolais Nouveau that I 100% cannot afford. Have a lovely weekend. Ciao. I love yous. Merci. Ciao. Guten Abend. I don't know. Fuck yous. Mwah. Free Palestine.